you right now?
Yeah.
Where are you?
I am in an undisclosed location in Afghanistan. No, I'm in Kandahar, Afghanistan. I can say that.
I was like, wait, you can't say that, right?
Yeah, I can
Oh
say
man,
that. I can say that.
I can say just not the street. If their street name, I don't even know how it works out there.
Right, right.
Oh man. All right, so
You'd be surprised.
I'm not getting nobody in trouble. Okay. So hi, Raveem.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Lena. How you doing?
Thanks for joining just now. So I should have started with this, but that's okay. The introduction part, your name,
Yeah.
currently dating, married, or involved with someone. If so, what race? Your current location, current field of work, your education background, and then your family background based off of race. I know that's a lot, but
Okay. So, yeah. So you might have to remind me a little bit, a
that's
couple
okay.
of them. If I miss something, please let me know. But yeah, my name is Raveem Foster, hailing from Southfield, Michigan. Let's see, what else did you say? You said, so I've been raised by a two-parent household. I'm the eldest of four children. We all have the same mother, same father, and we are all Black. My mother's Black, my father's Black. I attended all Black, pretty much all Black or predominantly Black high school, predominantly Black middle school. I went to an HBCU, Morehouse College, graduated in 2011. Upon graduation, I started working oddball jobs, and then I joined the military in 2012, in 2011, 2012. And then I've been working as a Marine. I've had two different jobs throughout my military career. Now I'm an intelligence professional. I am currently stationed in Afghanistan. I've been here almost, I've been here since January, so I'll be here for a year. So, did I miss anything? Yes, I am dating, and she is of Mexican descent. So she's like second generation Mexican. Her mother is from Mexico and lives in California. So her family resides in California now.
Nice.
And she's also in the military.
I'm going to tell you the post, and then my question is like, what were your initial thoughts? And if you want me to, I can read your comment. So, hello to Black men dating outside of your race. Do you truly know why you have that preference? So when you first saw that, what were your thoughts?
Initially, I thought that preference seemed a bit of a kind of definitive term, whereas for me, it was something that I look at it as it's very fluid, right? The relationships that I engage in, they aren't necessarily grounded in something that's black and white. So I saw some other posts before I decided to comment, and they kind of went along the lines of what I was thinking, which is, you love who you love, or you like who you like, and it doesn't necessarily, and race doesn't dictate that. I felt my preference was more fluid than what the term allows, I guess. So that was my initial response. my initial
Oh,
reaction.
given the definition of preference, it says, and I put it in here, dictionary.com says the state of being preferred, that which is preferred, a choice, a practical advantage
Hmm.
given to one over others. Do you still
Right.
keep that response that you have?
Yes, and I say that because I felt as though for for me to prefer one race over the other, that's what I felt. I felt like if I'm choosing between my race, and that's what the question was
Mm-hmm.
asking. So that's just my initial. I was like, well, wait, that's so I looked at it as pejorative, right? I looked at it as something that was a negative connotation. Um, Obviously, doing more research and digging into the question and actually thinking about where the question was coming from, having more context behind it allows me to now, okay, take a step back. Maybe it's not as negative as I initially felt,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is why feelings fade, and I understand that. But yeah, I still stand by the fact that, like I said, yes, it is. While it is a choice of whomever I choose to date, I don't think it's a choice that is made off of race exclusively. So I think that was the point I was trying to make with my post.
Hmm. Is so if it's not based off of race, what is it based off of?
So it's the person essentially. There are so many other factors that go into it. Like I said, for myself, particularly, it's in the pursuit of self-discovery and learning myself by what I actually wholeheartedly prefer, right, in a person, in someone that I choose to be intimate with. You know, what do I like? What do I value? What do I want them to value? Right. I don't want to go too biblical on it, but to be evenly yoked with somebody is something that, uh, because I'm grounded in my spirituality, is something that I look or I use as a guidance for how I engage in relationships, especially later on in my life. So it helps me to gauge whether or not definitive traits that I like in a person. And sometimes it just so happens that that person might be of a different race. When I'm like, oh, when I'm with them or whatever, and there are a lot of things that I like about them, and it's a couple things that I don't, and it's just like, okay, I don't like that about being with someone, like, so I'm gonna make sure that if I do engage in another relationship, I address it up front and we talk about it, we discuss it, and then we move forward if that's what we choose to do. So, like I said, it goes all the way back to self discovery and knowing what I like, knowing, and kind of, you know, playing the field essentially, so to speak, for lack of a better term.
So you just out here.
No, I'm not. I like, no, not at all. Oh, not at all. I like to take things slow. I will say the military speeds things up a lot, and I think that's why I do have a unique perspective
Mm-hmm.
because, and I'm sure there's many service members that made a comment or something like that or could attest to it. And it's just like, bro, we are confined in these areas together, whether male or female, and we're expected to perform a duty and a task. We've pledged our life to protect uh, and safeguard these freedoms that you know some of us as Americans take for granted, but that we all have. And because we've done that, it's just like it takes a special kind of crazy individual to do that. And and that's what you prefer, speeds things up because you're in such close proximity on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that being said, the military as a whole represents I guess, the demographics of our makeup of society in our culture, of American culture, right? So there's only a certain percentage of, Black people. There's only a certain percentage of Asian people. There's only a certain percentage, and it reflects what our culture um, suggest about, demographic populations and the ratios and things like that. So, yeah, I think that's what allows me to have more access, because growing up, you know, we had the opportunity where we were very fortunate to be around a lot of people that looked like us, that, had shared the same experiences, and, were still, all walks of life. And then I had the opportunity to go to an HBCU, and it was an amazing experience. My experiences personally, and just growing up and like how I grew up, I was kind of around a lot of people that shared a similar background and looked like me. And so now the military afforded me the opportunity to be around people from all walks of life that didn't look like me, that didn't share any of my experiences, however, allowed me to force me to broaden my horizons and think differently with a worldview. And then, just it continued to grow, continued to develop while being in the military.
Okay.
And because of that,
Go ahead.
it also allowed me to open my mind to dating outside my race. Yeah, and it also allowed me to date outside my race, because I was just like broadening my horizons. Like, I got more choices to choose from. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think the topic the question that was posed on the on Facebook, do you think that this is a topic worth discussing?
Yes, because it allows a discussion, open dialogue. I think too many times as men, we get wrapped up in whatever it means to be a man, and some men interpret that as not expressing yourself verbally, or not, explaining your feelings or how you think about things. And truthfully, in lieu of recent events and the importance of mental health, I don't think it's conducive to continue to bottle those feelings up and not express it, especially if you think differently than what maybe the majority of people might. It's productive, and it needs to be had. Yeah, and also I would just add to, I know some of my friends, buddies, and guys that I've shared dorm rooms with, and just growing up with, and who are Black, feel like oftentimes they have a right to be angry when they see Black women date outside their race, and they feel like they lost a good one for whatever reason. And and so on the opposite side, I don't see enough discussion or evaluation of our own, so like of Black men, of like what we're doing to contribute to that, or just getting out like how we feel about if we date outside the race, like what standard are we held to, you know what I mean, or if there even needs to be a standard. But like, again, I believe if there is going to be any type of progress, there needs to be some type of dialogue about it, there needs to be some type of discussion, and it needs to be open, and people don't necessarily, it needs to be judgment free, right? It needs to be something that everybody can come into and just like offer their opinion, and it not be something that's harsh, or you're going to be critiqued and criticized for how you feel. So as long as we keep those boundaries, then yeah, this is definitely a productive conversation. Nice. I enjoyed answering it too, by the way. So thank you.
Really? That's interesting. I thought it would piss a lot of people off.
It definitely did. Yeah, I wasn't one of them, but yeah, it definitely did. People were in their feelings. I was like, oof. And some of my brothers too, like I said, man, I was looking at more of my brothers' comments, and it was just like, some for sure But again, it's their opinion, and I can't criticize him or judge him for it because he's been through his own personal experiences. But there was one brother, I don't remember his name, but he responded, and it was just like, "That's not gonna look too good. Ooh, I'm sorry. I know what's gonna happen." And a couple of sisters, zoned in on him, like, we got him. We're gonna get him out of here.
Yep.
So he sat
Yep.
down.
Yep.
With the
Yep.
quickness.
So what are your thoughts about the fact that I was speaking to Black men, but it wasn't just Black men that responded?
Everybody has an opinion, and Black women, for as long as I can remember, have expressed feeling slighted, has expressed any of the stick. So anything, a Black woman's going to see that question posed and immediately is going to, if not respond, definitely pay attention to how Black men are going to, whatever they're going to say. And then they're going to have something to say about it, right? Because we're in a day and age where women are no longer just going to stand by and not say anything and stand by idly without their voice being heard, because, and Black women included, Black women especially, have been marginalized and have been pushed to the edge of society for too long. So it is time for, it's y'all time now. So I get it. I'm totally with it and I'm behind it. So yeah, I expected it, to be honest, to be frank. Like, I was like, yeah, I know Black women have something to say about this. So yeah.
Okay. Do you think, no, I'll ask this question first. What has your life experience taught you about relationships with Black women?
My relationship or my personal experiences with Black women have taught me that they are the most diverse, the most beautiful, kind, giving, they run the span of every great, or even, I'll say, like I said, I'm spiritually grounded, so I'm gonna say, like, God-like emotion that you can have and that you can evoke. And then there have been women who have been scorned, and so they act on that. And my experiences with have come from, like, my college years, especially in dating in high school. And it's just, bro, we're all people, and they're all figuring themselves out as much as I'm trying to figure myself out. And we've shared those experiences together, and it's been some of the great of Black women. I don't have any, like I said in my post, my great grandmother is 95 years old. There's no way that I can fix my mouth or my mind to think that, Black women are this monolith and they all represent something either bad or they represent all good. They're people too, and more times than not, they're good to you. So that's just been my take on it, my experience. Whenever I've asked for something with no questions asked, it's been given to me. If I, did the right thing and, was doing what I was supposed to do, you know what I mean? So nothing but love.
Do you think Black women care more than Black men about this subject? Why do you think Black women seemingly care more about men dating outside of their race than Black men?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is beyond a race thing, right? Because, and I'm gonna keep it in race, but men have been conditioned a certain way, predisposed to think a certain way, expressing their feelings and emotions publicly, or even with, intimately with, like, their spouses or something like that, has been frowned upon for a very long time. I think lately, and I'm saying lately, like in the last maybe 15 years, 10 years, we're starting to challenge that conditioning for men. So black men in particular who've had to carry the burden, or in America, who've had to carry the burden of, slavery and segregation and just being slighted, being being considered a second class citizen and less than. Then as a man, your manhood, you're trying to earn that back, right? Because for whatever reason, your God-given right has been stripped from you. So now you're trying to earn that back. And in earning that back, there are certain things that fall to the wayside. And showing your emotions is one of them, I believe. So I absolutely wholeheartedly believe in that assertion, essentially.
What are or were your immediate family, meaning like your siblings, mother, father, what were their immediate reaction to or responses when you started to date outside your race?
All right, can I add some context to that? Because it's really funny. All right, so initially, my mom was big on, like, if she can't use my comb, don't bring it home. That was, you know what I'm saying? That was real. That was real. And that was passed down from her grandmother. And she was like, she would say that. Now, when she said it, it was more jovial. It was, but there was still some fundamental deep truth to that, right? She didn't want, right? So fast forward, when I do decide to, like, date outside my race, then my mother was really accepting. She's just like, this is my son. This is what he chooses. I support him. I'm not going to, bash him. Yeah, so it wasn't anything that was, she was very accepting. And my sister, very liberal as well. She's a graduate of Eastern Michigan. So she's well learned. She's, my sister was like, oh yeah, do you boo boo, like that's how she felt. So everybody was accepting. My brother, he currently dates outside the race. Like I said, I'm the eldest of four, so it's kind of like, my siblings aren't going to be like, no, you know what I mean, because they look up to me, kind of, sort of, in a weird way. So yeah,
it's either yes or no. No, just just messing with you.
Yeah.
The next question is there a certain type of Black male that dates certain type of non-Black women?
In my experience, to say that there's a archetype for a Black man who dates outside his race, like, these are the flags that you'll find, or these are the telltale signs.
Mm-hmm.
No, I can't agree with that. I do think that for anyone, that there's going to be some level of, if they're thinking they're going to exclusively date outside their race because they've been hurt or scorned or there's some traumatic experience, then that's anybody. Anybody could fall prey to that because they don't want to, because there's some type of self-hate or something, self-deprecating factor. So, outside of, like, the traumatic and somebody's just choosing it because, like, they fell in love with that person. No, I don't think that there's a one archetype for a guy that will date outside his race. I think people that knew me before I dated outside my race probably wouldn't have, like, they wouldn't have been like, oh, he exhibited traits that will suggest that he would date outside his race. Like, nah, like, I don't think so. So,
No, you're the exact opposite.
yeah.
I was actually surprised. I was like, wait, what? But that's a whole other video.
Yeah, right? Crazy. See?
Look at you.
Yeah.
Going against the grain. Being an outlier.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep. Growth. This is growth here.
Oh, dating outside your race is growth? Is that what you're saying? Is it?
So what I'm saying is I am opening up my mind to all the world. And I am suggesting that it's helping me become a better person for that woman that I decide to marry. Boom. Yeah,
Oh,
because I want to be the best
oh,
being for her. Yeah,
ah,
yeah.
yeah. That's
And
that coming
that
in.
race is who know, only God knows. Only God knows.
I knew I should never ask you that question. We gonna keep going. We just gonna keep going here. Um, the next question is, what does being pro-black mean to you? Speak about the complexities of being pro-black and dating outside of your race.
So for me, pro-black means an understanding, or yeah, an understanding of where you came from, your lineage, your heritage, who you are as a person, and who your people were and what they endured, and respecting that. Um, and then carrying yourself with dignity, with your head held high and proud of who you are, right? So for me, pro-black is pride in my culture, and realizing that honestly, we the original man. That's how I honestly feel about it. And because I feel that way, I feel like all people come from us, have come from my mother essentially, right? Because, she was the progenitor of all races. So with that being said, I feel like the world is my oyster, and that's how I proceed. So I think being pro-black is just carrying yourself with dignity and pride first and foremost, and knowing that you come from a race of great people who've accomplished so much throughout human history, and it's not just relegated to one moment in time that we like to talk about as Americans, right? It's beyond that. There's thousands and thousands of years of if you will, Black history. So yeah, that's for me. Pro-black is the realizing, you know, your ancestry, where you come from, essentially, and having that pride.
Okay. So how does that relate to knowing that? How does that relate to you dating outside of your race and what that means to you, if anything?
Uh, Again, like I said, having the pride in myself, I think that's something that's internal for you. And if you're a proud person and you attract people to you, then I don't think that plays into like you only have to be now with another Black person. It's just like I'm proud of who I am and where I come from. And if I decide to date and then we have kids and something like that, now I'm able to bestow that knowledge of self into my kid, into my seed, and that will continue the legacy there, right? And then their mother will be able to, because she's a proud person, you would assume, right, uh, that she will pour her history and the knowledge of where she derives from into their child. So I just think it just helps to further the legacy essentially of being as if you're pro-black, that's what it will do, and it'll continue that pride. Does it affect relationships? I don't think it does. I don't think the two are like, I want to say like mutually exclusive. Like one thing doesn't dictate the other. That's what I'm saying. So if I'm
Mm-hmm.
pro-black, doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be with someone else that's pro-black or have to be with somebody. No, me being pro-black is something for me, right? That's part of my identity, my
Mm-hmm.
self identity, my discovery of myself. I don't think that affects now like the relationships I engage in because I identify with being pro-Black. Because I'm pro-Black doesn't exclude any other thing. But I could see myself as a world citizen, right? And because I'm a world citizen, I'm wanting to do different things to help the world's cause, right? I want to end poverty. I want to do these things. I want to do these things. And all those people won't be Black necessarily that I'm helping, but I'm still pro-Black because I trust, I have pride in who I am and where I came from. And that fuels me for the future. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. What would you say to a Black woman that has been mistreated by Black men, who feels insecure whether they acknowledge it or not, when seeing a Black man and non-Black woman together, and thinks to herself, I will never find love with a Black man, which is my preference?
Okay, so if she's tackling the first part of the issue, like I kind of touched on it a bit before about a Black man who went through traumatic experiences in his childhood or what have you in relationships. And again, speaking to that moment, I think because, you have experienced something that happened and is traumatic and it needs to be addressed. I believe that, that goes in a bit into, your mental wellness. And since it does go into that, like, I'm not a trained professional for that. I would just offer that, I'm here for you. I support you. I'm sorry for the things that you had to go through and endure. But I offer that all men, whether Black, white, or whatever, red, yellow, aren't the same. We aren't a monolith again. And, I understand you prefer this, but you prefer it based off of, it seems like, a traumatic experience or what have you. So, let's have that discussion. Let's have a dialogue. Maybe it's not with me. I'm going to just say, I support you in whatever you do. I'm not him. I get it. If you feel like, for the, whatever happened, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, I'm not a trained professional on helping people cope with whatever traumatic experiences. There are people for that. And I believe that's where, your mental wellness comes into play. And if you really do want to be better, counseling or whatever, however form you need it to come in, that's something that I don't have access to, or I'm not a trained professional to do. So, but yeah, I would offer my support still. It's, still a sister, you know what I mean? It's still somebody, it's still a human being. Like, I'm not going to treat them I'm not going to judge them or look at them differently because that's the choice they've decided to make. But I would, like to talk about it and have a discussion, because I'm all for dialogue and having those discussions and bringing our preconceived notions and to the table and like discussing them and talking about them and challenging them. So, yeah.
Okay. The next question is, what do you plan to teach your children about relationships and race?
So that again goes back to just me letting my son know exactly, who he is, the legacy that he comes from, who his family is. I would encourage that, I've never done it myself and maybe I should, but like ancestry.com is like awesome and things of that nature. I'm sure down the line when he's older is going to be like more accessible, easier to use, so there's going to be things like that I would definitely encourage him to do if he wants to try that. But I would do my damnedest to do everything that I can to instill in him the knowledge that I have and to encourage him to continue to push forward, to learn more, and then teach me, right? Because there'll be a point where I don't have the opportunity or the access to the information that he has. So I'm sure that, and I just want to inspire that in him. And, I think whoever I decide to be with, and if I do marry someone outside my race, that they will respect that and that they will encourage it as well, right? And they'll encourage, because self-discovery is like the first step into, you know, becoming who you're supposed to be. And then you can't truly give yourself to somebody else intimately or like, you know, as one, if you don't even know who you are. You know what I mean? So I would encourage my son, my daughter to do those things, to self-reflect, but to know themselves first. And the first step in knowing yourself is, you know, knowing where you come from. So yeah, I would definitely encourage that.
All right. There is a thought that if Black people continue to date, well, not date, but if Black people continue to be intimate with people who are non-Black, eventually the race will no longer be here after generations and generations. And there's this thought of wiping out the Black race and doing that by making it seem as though other races are better to be with instead of Black people. So I know that was a lot, but what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. Initially, like, I think that that's a bit closed-minded. Like I said, I believe that the original man was Black. So if that's the case for me, and that's what I believe. I know that there have been some studies that suggest that to be true. And then there are other studies that suggest something else, and there are pockets of society. I do believe that you can't get rid of the Black race at that point, right? Because then everybody's a part of it anyway. I truly just don't believe that. I'm not grounded in. I'm not well versed in like this and like where we come from and everything like that. But my gut feeling informs me that it's just not something that would happen. There would need to be like another traumatic experience. There would need to be an extermination of people or some type of a genocide or something that like contributes to the extermination, if you will, of the Black race. Just being with different people that are outside the race, I don't think is a realistic vision, or this is a realistic goal of like Black people just ceasing to exist. I don't think that's how that works.
Okay. Okay. So the last question is, why do you believe people within the Black community cannot have productive, effective healing conversations like this?
Our conditioning, and when we say Black people, we're talking about Black Americans, right? Or
Correct.
just in general. Okay, so yeah, our history, where we've come from, how we've been conditioned, the fact that it was illegal once upon a time for a Black person to read. There's so many things that we've had to overcome as a people, that other things that are important, unfortunately, have had to be put on the back burner in order for the space and opportunity to engage in these healthy conversations and discussions. I encourage that we do it more often, and it needs to happen. But so I'm placing the blame on, there were so many other struggles and crises that were happening directly to Black people, that we had to deal with those things before we were even able to think about mentally how it truly affected us. Mm-hmm. That's not to say that it went unnoticed. I know that there are enough Black scholars who have spoke on the issues, until they turn blue in the face, for lack of a better term. But it's only until like us as a people collectively we come together that we start to realize the importance of mental health and our mental wellness. And I think now is the time where we have the space and opportunity to do so. So that's why we've had a lack of these discussions, but now we have an opportunity that we can take advantage of to engage more.
Okay. That was actually the last question. Did you have any other thoughts?
Wow.
Anything like that?
So again, I want to thank you for. I look at it as a thought experiment. I look at it as something that challenges, how I think and whether or not the way I think is where I want to be in my future. Right. I'm always trying to think ahead, think 5 years in the future of where I need to be or where I want to be, and work towards that. So this was something that helped to highlight, where I am, and where I want to go. And so for me, I just hope that it does open this discussion. And like I said, to continue to repair some of the trauma that's been caused to our community in particular for years and years and years, and it's piled up. It's also just nice to get away from the discussions in the office of the current political structure and the everything that's going on, the political atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
Being in the military comes up often, so it's refreshing to be able to actually think about people like me,
Mm-hmm.
who look like me, and
Yeah.
have my experience. Get back to that, because it's so funny. You take for granted things that happen when you're like growing up, and it's like, oh, it's always gonna be like this. And moving outside of Detroit, and then moving to actual like other cities, look, predominantly a different race, and you're like, oh wow, okay, this is what the country looks like, right? So it's very insightful. So thank you again, very thought provoking.
Well, I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to help me out, answer the questions. Please stay safe out there. Do what you need to do, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I wish you the best in everything and anything, because you definitely deserve it.
So much. I hope that I've been a help in any way, like slightly. I didn't make too much of a fool of myself.
No.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you. All right, now try and get some sleep or something.
All right. Yes, ma'am, I will. It is 1 a.m. now.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a good one.
Bye.